Hey guys, I'm Drew from Punch Punch Magic, and this weekend I got the opportunity to try out Ghost Recon Wildlands, the closed beta or technical test or whatever you want to call it. And I just want to kind of go over everything that I liked and disliked about the experience. Let me start by saying, because I know a lot of you guys are going to say it if anybody's actually watching this video, I understand that this is a beta or technical test, whatever they want to call it. I understand that. The game's not finished yet, technically. I don't know what build we're playing of the game, but the game launches a month from now. Let's be realistic here. Any changes that we as a community say that need to be made or have to make an outcry about probably aren't going to be fixed by the time this game launches. The primary reason for this whole beta was just to kind of test the servers and make sure that they didn't have a similar situation that Battlefield 4 had however many years ago. To be realistic, let's just not say things like, oh, this game's unfinished, or it's just a beta, as an excuse for the beta's lack of quality. What we have here is more than likely nearly finished. A lot of people are saying that it feels unfinished. Well, that just might be how the game itself feels, which is unfortunate. I'd say that the final version of this game is going to be very similar to this. I mean, we've seen it in betas from Ubisoft before, with The Division, for example. That game, the beta, was nearly identical to the final version of the game. Anyway, you may infer from all of this that I did not enjoy my experience at all with the beta, which isn't true. I actually had a lot of fun with this game, but there's a lot of caveats to that, and there are a lot of problems that I had with the game also. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go over the things that I liked and the things that I didn't like, just some pros and cons. Also, I just want to mention, before any of you guys ask, I was playing this on Xbox One. That's where all my friends are. That's what I play on. So my performance was actually fairly consistent at 30 frames a second, which I know a lot of you guys will scoff at, but I've actually heard there's a lot of problems on the PC side of things. So the PC players are just having a ton of issues playing this game, and so keep that in mind. There's apparently a lot of performance problems on PC. Not so much from what I experienced. I didn't even really experience any frame drops at all, but just keep that in mind if you want to play this game on PC. So let's go ahead and get into the pros of the experience. One thing I really want to point out first is I had an absolute blast playing this game when I was playing with friends. When you're playing with friends, it's exactly what they marketed it as. It's a very tactical, fun, open world experience where you can seriously tackle any situation, airplane or from helicopter, from truck, armored truck, or just do it like really stealthily and everything like that. Yeah, it's very open, but it also reminds me a lot of one of Ubisoft's other franchises, Far Cry. The reason this game feels so good to play is because that, Far Cry 3 back when it came out was amazing. It was awesome. It was like completely emergent gameplay. You could go about it however you wanted, but people just wanted some sort of multiplayer experience with that. And they did that with Far Cry 4, but here is when I think that system is fully realized. I think that playing with your friends in this kind of open environment where you can approach situations however you want just lends itself very well to the kind of Ghost Recon tactical gameplay, and I think that's why it feels so good to play with friends. You could be storming into a base with one of your friends at your side, and you could have a guy up in a helicopter kind of distracting everybody inside the base, and you could have somebody far off in the distance sniping and picking off all the stragglers. That's really cool, and it lets you do that in this game. You can do any mix of all those things. Hello, cat. Hi. She won't leave me alone. This is an experience that's kind of unique to the multiplayer. But I'll get more to that later, what the solo experience is like when I get to the cons. Another thing I enjoyed about the multiplayer experience is, for the most part, the server stability was fine. I'm actually glad that they did this. They were able to test things out. I was able to connect to people fine, had no issues, barely any lag. So, it might be different for you, but for the most part, I was actually pretty happy with the connectivity and the smoothness of the online experience. There's some smaller things that I liked, like I like how you can zoom out of the map and see how large the full game is actually going to be. That's really nice. The small section that we played here was fine. I actually kind of liked the way people interacted. The way that enemies interact with each other is actually pretty cool. You use a drone and you can kind of get a bird's eye view in their base, and you'll see them like interacting with each other. You'll see a guy like across the base going like, hey, and then you'll see another guy on top of a building that he's pointing at go back at him like, oh. There's little touches like that that make it feel alive, and I think Ubisoft is getting better at that. I mean, we saw that with Watch Dogs 2. They're getting better at making these worlds feel alive. I just don't know if this huge of a map, if it's even going to be possible to do something like that with the amount of time that they have. I also think that playing on higher difficulties, this game can be very fun and intense, because it only takes 1 or 2 bullets to take most enemies down, and it takes maybe like a few bullets to take you down. It's a fun experience to play with people if you're playing on higher difficulties. If you're playing on lower difficulties, I can see how this could be way too easy and just not very fun overall, but since there's that intensity that you could only go down in a few hits, you tend to be more careful and more tactical in your approach to things. The problem is, the game doesn't really allow this approach when you're playing by yourself. Before we really get into the cons though, I don't want to understate how much fun I actually had with this game. I was playing it with my friends, and when I was playing it with Brandon for, like I said, like an entire afternoon, we were having an absolute blast just doing everything. There were a couple of hiccups that I'll go over later in terms of design decisions, but for the most part, we were able to play how we wanted to play and then utilize each other's play styles to kind of overcome a certain situation. It was a very fun experience. Something that is very lacking from the solo experience of this game. So I cannot state enough. Also, if you're going to play this game by yourself without any friends or any randoms online, I cannot recommend it. The AI is frankly shit. Okay, let's take a step back. The AI isn't completely shit, but it is imbalanced to the point where it feels almost broken. Like it was an afterthought when it's like the main portion of the game. Let's start with your squad mates. They kind of just stand around. They're incredibly passive for the most part, but they kind of just wait around for you to give them orders. The problem is the orders in the game don't entirely work. I don't remember a single time when I said go there or rally up, you know, when they're supposed to kind of get around you, and it actually worked. I don't think it actually did hardly any time. But for the most part, your allies just kind of stand around you while you're being suppressed and unloaded on, and they kind of just stand next to you. I had this happen multiple times while trying to play this game solo, to the point where it was just kind of pointless. I was asking myself, I'm not having fun playing this, so why the hell am I doing it? If it was 20 hours into the game and this was happening over and over and over again, I would be pretty upset. I'd be pretty bored. Now, the enemy AI is at least consistent compared to the squad AI, but not consistent in any kind of good or fair way. The enemy AI is just completely on the aggressive end of the spectrum. They can spot you through the tiniest gaps, or maybe you slip up and aren't in cover the right way. If they spot you across the map, every single person around them is alerted, which more often than not is the entire base. They're alerted to your position. And that wouldn't be so much of a problem if every single enemy in this game didn't have pinpoint accuracy. Every single person that you go up against in this game is a dead-eye marksman. When you're going out against like these low-level thugs, these cartel members, it doesn't make sense for them to be able to hit you with every single shot. It seriously doesn't make any sense. It's not like they're highly trained. It's so weird, and it makes a lot of the experiences really bizarre. The game actually wants you to go and shoot people, but you can't because the game is a stealth game, first and foremost, that is very punishing for getting spotted. But the section's going on a long time, and I don't want it to seem like AI is the only problem that this game has, because it's not. There are a lot of problems. First one that everybody notices, every single person will notice right off the bat, is the driving controls are terrible. It shouldn't be a surprise. Honestly, it's a Ubisoft game. They just can't get driving right. It has shit driving. It's bad. It's floaty, it's arcadey, but in all the wrong ways. It doesn't feel accurate at all, and you feel like you're just like a drunk driver driving around all the time. This game is the worst example. This is worse than the first Watch Dogs, and that is bad. You barely stay on the road. You're constantly swerving all over the place because you can't get control. If you do manage to drive in a straight line, good luck actually turning eventually, because you have to slam on your brakes to do it. And some people would say that's more realistic, but it doesn't feel realistic. It feels super floaty. It feels like you're constantly on ice while also being drunk and being in a like 20-ton tank. And that kind of extends into how the game itself actually controls. Initially, like the first 30 minutes of playing this game, it was awful. I hated it. Eventually, I ended up getting used to it and accustomed to it. I mean, I'm a gamer, I do this. I get used to control schemes even when they're kind of weird. So I got used to it, and then I actually started to appreciate it a little more. But there's still one thing that I had a problem from the beginning that ended up being a problem for the entire experience, and it's still a huge issue I have with the game, and that is the cover mechanic. Now, the game utilizes a automatic cover system, kind of like the Tomb Raider games, except in those games it works. Here, it does not work whatsoever. It's not sticky at all, so you'll go in and out of cover without even realizing it, and the animations are kind of weird, so you don't really realize when you're in cover and you're out of cover. You'll come out of cover, or you'll go to the edge of a wall thinking that you're in cover, but suddenly you're being spotted by enemies. It's so frustrating. And I don't understand why they didn't just make it you press A to get into cover. Actually, I think I do know why they did that. I think they made that decision to not have a press a button to enter cover system is so that the comparisons between them and the Division would not happen. I didn't want another Division game. In fact, that's what I was worried. I was worried this game was just going to be the Division in a huge open world and with Ghost Recon slapped on the box. But that's not what it is at all. In fact, it actually feels like a Far Cry game with a third-person perspective mixed with the old Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter games. If you ever played those games, they're actually really good. This feels a lot more like that, just with a lot less polish. What else? Let's see. Oh, the story. God, it's so bland and meh that I seriously almost forgot to even mention it here. You are a tactical team being sent in from America, to deal with the cartels in South America. It doesn't help that everybody in this game looks like an incestuous Neanderthal. What the hell's up with this lady? She looks like Princess Fiona from Shrek. The main character you play as repeats lines, at least in my game he did. He said this line like every 5 seconds.
I know Yuri and Polito are a twisted pair, and I know this is payback for Sandoval. Let's keep this clean and tidy.
Gratuitously over-the-top stuff like cock holster.
Cock holster.
Why? What the hell? Who are you trying to connect with, Ubisoft? You trying to connect with the bro dudes? Like the friggin' Merc of fuck yeah?
Cock holster.
There's a complete disconnect. It seems like satire more than actual, like, trying to make us connect with things, but it's bad satire if that's the intention. The problem with this entire experience overall is that Ubisoft seems to not give a single shit about first impressions. First impressions are huge for the game industry, especially now with betas and all that stuff happening all over the place. I mean, I got a poster for friggin' Destiny. That game had an amazing first impression, and then that ended up hurting a lot of people in the long run because the end game ended up not having a whole lot of content, but it had a good first impression. Why would they release this beta in this state a month out? If they had released this 6 or even 3 months ago, I wouldn't have nearly as many problems as I do with it now. Or I wouldn't be as aggressively kind of worried about it. It doesn't feel like something that's coming out in a month. What have they been doing for the past 4 years? Making the map? Actually, probably. Probably we've just been working on making the map as large as possible, and then they're just like, just put a game in there. Just put a game in there. What else can I say about this? Overall, I really liked it. I don't think I'm going to get it on launch. This game just seems like it's going to be ripe with problems on launch. Even though I had a ton of fun with it with my friends, I can only seriously recommend this to anybody at a serious discount. The gameplay itself is solid. If they could fix that cover mechanic or add an option where you just press A and get in cover, I think that would actually alleviate a lot of the control issues I have with the combat and make this game just as fun to play as like Destiny or The Division. Those games are very fun to play but lacked substance, and this game is so severely lacking of substance and just like care. It's like the game has no heart. It's like they just made it. They made it because they knew that they had a gameplay formula that worked in Far Cry, and then they said, we have this property, Ghost Recon. Yeah, that would actually work really well in the Far Cry format. Let's make it. What's the story going to be? What's the context? What's the world building going to be like? We'll figure that out later. And it seems like they're kind of running up against a wall. and they haven't figured it out yet. I feel like I'm just kind of preaching to the choir at this point. Don't pre-order, wait for reviews. Like, you guys know this shit, but like, I don't know, it just keeps happening. This shit keeps happening. I don't know if this game's gonna have as much longevity, is that how you say it, as Ubisoft says it is going to have. I mean, technically, yes, it would take you 100 hours to do everything, but would you actually want to play it more than 10 hours? I don't know. And that's the problem here. And that's what you have to really consider when you look at this game. Thank you guys for watching. This is the first long video I've made. Expect more videos like this. I really like this kind of format to do for like reviews and stuff. It sounds bad, I'm sorry. Still kind of getting set up here. But yeah, thanks for watching.